Hey yo YouTube, I am here to talk about my D&D game, The Band of Titans. Where we left off, we just finished the battle. Um, we start checking the place, like I know they go into the cave. I don't think they really find much. I know it's unclear if everything snowed over because we're in Arctic land and it just, it happens that fast, or if this place has been abandoned for a while. Or the whatchamacallits here just haven't been taken care of. Aradina ends up asking, are we going to speak to the dead and stuff like that? And they end up saying, well, that's Mike's choice because he's the one who cast it. Uh, I say that I'll cast it, but y'all ask the questions. Um, to be honest with you, for the first hour of this section, I was watching MLW. Uh, Kruger got robbed, held Contra, and something gets brought up about the generals being from a place called Anadon. Um, Aradina says something about how like that's a realm with angels. It's like she says there's multiple meanings to the word in her world. Uh, they say something about a bottomless pit, a realm of the undead. Kind of sounds like the abyss. And then like after that, like Craven's like, I don't know what else to ask, and Aradina's like, ask the same stuff you asked to the three hags. And we ask what's on the other side of the vortex, and they say that it's unprotected. Which last time that isn't what we heard. Last time we heard that there was a big army that the hags controlled. When we ask where are they say that they're in the realm of Irisism. And we ask about this world, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna mess this up. Uh, Something it said that like it's the Irisum ecliptical of the multiverse. Um, Again, Aradina starts breaking down what that means, and pretty much she says something about how like it means like a straight path, or like layered on top of each other, where like pretty much it's like it could be interpreted as like a multiverse or parallel worlds that are like on top of each other. And they tell us that Queen Azastalia is in war with the outsiders. Um, if I remember right, we don't have enough questions to ask what the outsiders are. For the most part, most of the questions just rehash what we've already learned last time. Uh, them being gone is really the only thing new that we learned. But we continue to travel, and eventually the DM, like we're like he shows us a map, and pretty much there's a trail and there's just forest all around us. Everything's ice looking, and he asked Basker, and later on I want to say also Hellfire, to do a scent check. Um, Initially, he says it smells like something Basker or Hellfire never smelt before. Immediately, Basker goes off trail into the forest, sniffing it out. Um, Truth be told, I expected like Craven and them to follow me, which they didn't. They just stood there. Like whenever they kind of the player kind of asked the DM what's going on, because I do say that Hellfire goes off a trail every now and then, uh, and he's like Hellfire every now and then goes off trail, but this is the first time Basker does it. And eventually he tells me that there's something up in the trees. There ends up being kind of a miscommunication between me and the DM. Like, I do say, like, I look up in the trees, and on the map, it looks like there's, like, extra, like, I don't know, 30, 40 feet of fog of war, but apparently it's just black after that, it's off the map. So I continue walking, and I walk off the map, and the DM ends up interpreting that as like I never looked up and I just kept going. And then like the DM's like a few hours go by and he puts up pretty much the same map. And I'm like, wait a minute, like we didn't see nothing, we didn't spot nothing. And he's like, y'all never looked up. I was like, I said I did. Uh, but pretty much he just kind of like pretty much says, well, I guess y'all didn't see nothing. And then like again we start smelling stuff, and again I go off trail. This time do a spot check, and he ends up putting on the map the house elves that look like Dobby that we seen in the Brotherhood of the Lion, and I'm like, Basker did see one of these before. He would know what that smells like. And I described the time whenever we were walking the glooms. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. Basker seeing them, he ends up saying, like, y'all are house elves and y'all walk the glooms. They ask some kind of questions like, well, like what are you, like something about you seems different, or where, I think they say, where are you from? And Basker says, I am from multiple places. I am from the astral realm. I am from Midgard, and I am from Mistral. And the astral plane thing comment kind of clears it up. They're like, oh, and he asked them to come down to talk to him, and they're like, come up here and talk to us. And like he looks down at his paws, and they're like, oh yeah, I see. Oh, they're like, well, I was wondering maybe if he could fly or something. And he's like, only in the astral plane I could do something like that. But he ends up asking them to come down and talk to the group, and they're like, why would we want to go talk to the humans and goblinoids? Like they desecrate the lands. We have no interest in talking to them. Um, and like Basker's just kind of like, we're on a mission to find a witch. Uh, I want to say he says the prophecy is here, where he says the save the witch, find the witch, save the multiverse. And then he starts asking, like, where the vortex that the witches went through. And they're kind of like, how did you know that? And he ends up saying, well, like the hobgoblin, we defeated the Ashar. I think I'm saying that wrong. Um, and the hobgoblin was able to speak to the dead. Uh, they're like, that kind of makes us not trust you even more. And eventually they end up saying, the only ones that they trust out of this group is Basker and Seville. Cause she's some kind of different species of an elf. She's like a gray elf or something like that. So I go down and I tell Seville that apparently they only like me and you, and I ask her to follow me. Um, when we get to them, they start speaking elf to her, and apparently they speak the exact type of dialect that she speaks, which is this is like the first time she's encountered that. But they're speaking too fast, like they're speaking super fast, and she asked them to slow down, and then they start slow. They start talking super slow to her, and I think they ask her also where she's from, and she says Samia, and like a few times, like they'll look at, because there's like three of them, they'll look at each other and they'll start speaking real fast to each other, and a mixture, I think, because like I didn't really lay the foundations of what we talked about before I brought her in, and they're speaking elf because Basker can't understand it. Uh, their interaction ends up going terrible. Like uh, like she brings up the group, or I want to say they bring up the group, how like they can't trust the group, and she's like, what, them? Like, oh, they're fine. And again, they start saying how like the humans and goblinoids desecrate the land and this and that. uh Me and the DM talk about it later on, or a few days ago, and we think that because the same player plays Kraden, and we were like, or the DM pretty much said that like he don't think he really got what he meant, like when he said desecrating land, they meant like tearing down trees and stuff like that. Where we think the player thought like killing and stuff like that. Um, but like he's like, or she's like. No, they haven't done anything. We just been traveling. We just been traveling this whole time, and they're like, they haven't been here long enough for us to make that decision. Like a few hours is nothing. Um, And she's like, "Oh, we gotta, trust has got to start somewhere," and they're like, "No," they're like, "No, we're just fine how we are. We've done just well living with not around humans." Like they say something like their homeland was desecrated, and she ends up making like those same 2 points like more than once, and they're kind of arguing with her, and like I say, like Basker's like looking back and forth. I remember they even told Basker before I brought her up here. They tell us that they know someone that could tell us where this vortex we're looking for, but it's not their place to tell us themselves. And they could pass on the message, and if they decide, uh, it's up to them. Um, and then eventually, like Seville's like, "All right," and then like they walk away, and the player's like, "Oh, that's as good as I was gonna do," and I'm like, "No," like I even say out loud, like, "No, you did a terrible job at that." Um, and they're like, "We keep moving." I'm like, "No, we don't keep moving." I end up saying to him, and I say Basker looks out. Basker says to him, "One of the times that I seen y'all, it was in the glooms, and y'all were destroying this like purple moss, purple mold with a blowtorch." Thinking about it, I probably shouldn't have said blowtorch. I probably should have just said fire. Um, and whenever y'all were destroying it, like y'all ended up clearing like the ways, and we saw these magical words that said the king is falling. And then they start looking at each other and start doing the fast talk. And then they're like, "You walk the glooms?" And I'm like, "I said something about it when I first saw you that I knew you were from the glooms." They're like, "Oh, we're putting that together now." Um, and they're like, "You walk the glooms, both the prophecy, the king is falling, and find the witch." Um, and they're kind of like they're interested in that, and they say, "Well, pass this on to the people we know." And I end up saying, for the most part, this is an honorable group. The my companion would have never passed on my figure to the human if they weren't, and they're just like, "We'll keep this in mind. We'll pass it to the group." And we continue to travel. Eventually, we set up camp. The DM asks if there's anything we do for the night. Like, I say Hellfire and Smite. Around 12 o'clock, they go do their prayers. I say at one point that Smite starts doing I think they called it flogging, something like that, with the whip. Uh, Craven's player starts asking like if I worship Parisha. I'm like, "No, I worship Grooms, and I'm a hobgoblin, and I'm also uh, a one-eyed of Grooch, and like when they level up, they get ritual scarring." So, and then I say after that Hellfire goes and kind of circles the camp, sees if she could see any signs of Arctic wolves, and whenever she doesn't, she starts howling. Eventually, three Arctic wolves show up, and they start asking like, "What is she doing here?" She doesn't. They're not familiar with her. What pack is she from? Um, she says she's from the Pack of Many Arrows. She says she's here to find the vortex. She's interested in the White Witches, and I guess other Arctic wolves. They question her back and forth. Eventually, she ends up transforming into her human form, and they're like wargs that could turn into humans are favored from Baba Yaga. And she's like, "Well, then Baba Yaga will reward you if you introduce her to me." Um, and they're like, "Baba Yaga's not around right now." And she's like, "Well, whoever the new leader is." Um, they go back and forth a little bit, but eventually she convinces them to take her to the vortex. Uh, when we get there, like the DM says, I travel for like 3 hours, and I say I go through it, which I think the DM was surprised by. He's like, "I'm gonna have to get back to you later." Eventually, like a few days later, me and him get together and role play it out. this is probably going to blow up the video, make it a little longer than I would prefer it to be, but this is what happened the next few days or a few days later. And when we get back to her, we go through the vortex. She starts asking the three wargs like, "What are the outsiders that the queen is fighting?" They tell her that their name is Viamos, and they say that they serve some kind of demon possessed witch. I ask a little more about the queen. They say her name is Queen Anastasia, which I believe I've broad said already. I ask if there's a main alpha wolf. They say the alpha of alpha's name is Ice Thorn. They say the white witch that she serves is called a Pishna Nicopod. I'm probably getting that wrong. But pretty much the Arctic Wolves and the Wargs have only made a deal with the White Witches. The Queen is not a White Witch, so they don't serve her. And they say something else about Witch Wargs, but I never really get an explanation of what that is. Uh, Eventually, we travel and we come upon a valley that's filled with a mixture of wargs and Arctic wolves. A group of the wargs end up like approaching her, like says they don't notice her. I want to say she says the same thing. I'm Hellfire from the Cultman. Or at first, I think she just says I'm Hellfire, and then what appears to be the Alpha steps forward. Like, did I hear this right? There's a rogue, um, and she. Then, like I said, this is where she says, like, I'm part of the pack of many arrows. Um, they talk back and forth. Eventually, she changes human again. He ends up changing human too. Uh, like before that, like he like questions her bloodline, says like she doesn't want to bring a weak bloodline into one of these packs. I know she says that like she's from Faerun, and because like her story is supposed to be like some kind of deity or something like that, handed over, came through like a portal and handed over a group of wargs to the Kingdom of Many Arrows. Um, and they kind of say that like there was a rogue witch that did that, and they forgot the deal that they had with Baba Yaga. I know at one point she like casts a spell whenever she turns into her human form, and like they ask her if she's a witch, and she's like, I'm a sorcerer with the blood of Jotun in my veins. He's like, all of us have blood of Jotun in their veins. And she's like, that's why well, that's how I get my powers. And she's just like, I get mine just from brute strength. Um, Eventually, they're like, you could stay here, but each pack kind of has their own little territory here, and if you hunt into one of their domains, they might get mad at you. Uh, I tell the DM I just hang out for the night, and then because like I ask him, is it 119 miles? And he's like, well, you want to know that? I'm like, just ask him. And then, like, say at night, I'd teleport 119 miles, turn invisible, and a mixture of turning greater invisibility and teleporting. I go looking for the castle where the queen's from. I want to say again, he says I travel like 3 hours. He puts up a map where it's just a whiteboard. It says I'm on like a white field, and I see like a man approach. I tell them, I think I ask, are you a representative of the queen? And he says yes. And he asks like what I'm doing here, like who am I? And this time I tell him, I am Hellfire, the right hand of the cult of many arrows. Uh, and like she says, like I'm here to help because like even with the alpha wolf, pretty much she's like, I came to battle the outsiders. I came here to do battle. And we were told that the winter hags, they don't like the queen because, like I said, she's not a winter witch. And they were holding off, hoping that the outsiders will overtake her, and then their queen will become queen. And she's like I said, she's like, I'm here to aid with the battle against the outsiders, and they're like, like none of the other Arctic wolves are here to help. Why are you? And I have no pled no loyalty to the White Witches, and and I hear that she's a descendant of Baba Yaga, and to me that makes her more powerful. That's who I would rather serve. Um, I don't think she uses the term serve. Eventually, she says that the father of many arrows is uh, is on his way here with a powerful party, and if he gets here, we think we could help each other. And he ends up saying, if this party is powerful enough to get here, that when they do, perhaps we will be able to aid each other. She ends up telling them that if they're not strong enough to get here, then they're not worthy of my services, and I will pledge allegiance to the queen. Uh, and he ends up saying we'll either let you in to talk to her when the party gets here, or when they fail and you decide to pledge loyalty to her. Um, and then he ends up leaving, and I tell the DM that I sit there and wait. Well, because he ends up saying you could go back to the party if you want, and I tell the DM I 100% wait. Her being a cohort, she really doesn't have to fight if I don't want her to. She'll still get experience as long as Smite does. So getting back to the Band of Titans, the next morning we start traveling and stuff, and after some time we end up seeing the house elves again. Actually, I want to say they're in front of the road, and they say we got permission to talk to the Domovoids, which is I guess is the people they were talking about. And they lead us to this hut thing, and whenever we enter it, uh, Basker notices as they look just like the three elves that helped us whenever we had to free the Stripe Mimics, which was in a futuristic world. Um, Seville notices that pretty much they're the same type of elf that she is. And the same thing happens where they speak the same type of dialect she does. They ask her about what world she comes from. She she says that she's from a world called Earth, but it was conquered by, and I really didn't catch the name, but her world was conquered by something. From what I understand, from what I've put together, her world was conquered. She's a warlock, if I've never said that. And some kind of deity approached her and gave her a deal, and that's kind of why she's here now to a point. Because all of us are here because we're outsiders and stuff like. And we end up asking what's beyond the vortex, and they pretty much say what Hellfire found out the few days later, which was the queen was fighting the outsiders. Their name was Vamianos or something like. I know Smite ends up asking if the queen perhaps is the witch in the prophecy, find the witch, save the multiverse. And they're kind of we've thought about that ourselves. We're not exactly sure. Um, and then I know eventually Craven starts asking about the King is Falling prophecy. Um, One thing I found weird, which I've seen the player do before, where they're these two prophecies seem like they're connected, and I remember thinking are they? And the elves say far as we know, they're two different prophecies that don't have to do with each other. And we talked to them a little more. They end up agreeing to take us to the vortex. When everyone leaves, Basker stays, and Basker asks, "Have y'all ever dealt with Wimics before?" And they say all the Wimics in this area have died off, or any Wimics they've known have died off. They haven't seen Wimics in however long. Uh, and he tells them how on their mission they were in a futuristic world and saw three elves that looked just like y'all. Um, they say, well, that's good to know that either Archon is in some kind of multiverse or perhaps we live on. I know they also say that Baba Yaga has a 100-year cycle, and they're only 20 years in, so we're not going to see Baba Yaga anytime soon. Like Basker asked if they ever dealt with the wise ones. They say that like in other places they were once a member of the wise ones, and he says like, well, perhaps we'll send a representative to meet you. And they're like, we may or may not accept that represent or speak to that representative. And then like Basker leaves and joins the group. Uh, the house elves take us to the vortex. Uh, we enter the vortex, start traveling for a while. Eventually, the DM puts up a map, and we see a road that leads to like a big log. It's blocking it. When we get closer, we see these three big like Shrek looking creatures. Uh, they tell us to hold in the name of the queen. I think they say like that the orders are that no one could pass. Uh, Craven's player is like he waits to see if they say anything else, and the DM was like they don't, and then like Craven's like is there any other orders or is that it? Like I accidentally say it right, like what a dick. um, the Shrek looking things, the ogres, they say something else. Like pretty much they just repeat themselves, and then there's like a long pause where like because Craven's player's mics off, our cameras off, so we can't see what he's doing, and there's just like a long pause, and eventually DM's like what do you do, and then Craven's player's like to be honest with you, I fell asleep. You think we could just wrap it up there? And he was like, all right, I guess. And then like he says to me, because I remember one time I said something about how I was watching uh, some other D&D players on YouTube, and they were saying how they like to start each session off with the fight and then work their way up to the next one and end it there. And they're like, well, it looks like we're doing that this week. So that's where we wrap it up. Um, Future predictions. We're gonna fight these ogre things. I have very little doubt that Craven's gonna uh, be able to talk his way out of not fighting them. More than likely, we're definitely gonna fight them. After that, I don't know. I guess I actually imagine we're gonna fight a few things before because like there's supposed to be a huge army in between where we are and the queen is. Uh, Hopefully we get there, and then we get they meet back up with Hellfire, and Hellfire has already laid the groundwork. Uh, you want to see what happens? Watch my next video. You want to know the whole story? Watch all my videos, and check you later.